This is Real Homies Wanna Know Live, and we've never done this live before. Usually, I record these videos and put them on YouTube, so this is a first, but I'm excited. And today we're going to be talking all about aging in place and learning more about it. I just recently did a blog post about it a few days ago, but we get a chance to go more in detail. And I'll go ahead and get to it. So today we have occupational therapist Miss Phaedra Mashburn-Olomo with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So first off, can you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
So I am an occupational therapist. I've been an occupational therapist for about 18 years, and I've worked in different settings, acute care, inpatient rehab, for anyone who knows the lingo. So in the hospital, when bedside, when you go down to the rehab unit, I've worked there. When when you're transferred to a subacute rehab facility or freestanding hospital for rehab, I've worked there. I've worked in nursing homes, and I've also worked in home health. So for the most part, throughout my career, I've worked with older adults. So that's a bit about my career. I have a bachelor's in occupational therapy from Florida A&M University, and my master's in healthcare administration from Utica College. So, and I'm also a certified case manager and certified dementia practitioner, and certified aging in place specialist. So.
Yes, and what does an aging in place specialist do? Well, before we get into that, let me ask you, what is your definition of aging in place?
So aging in place, I mean, and you've said it before because I've listened to you, if you're living, you're aging. We are all aging. So aging in place is just getting older and getting older and being able to remain there wherever your home is. So whether it is a family home, whether it's your private home, whether it's an assisted living facility, but being able to live there as independently as possible. And that's aging in place.
Yes, simply put, everybody. All right, so you mentioned that you're aging in place care specialist, or just aging in place specialist?
Right. So that's a CAPS. So it's certified aging in place specialist. So, and it's a designation like under the National American Home Builders Association, and so it's a building association, but essentially being, I specialize in, one of my specialty areas is going inside of a home and recommending or make modification. So I'm not on the construction side, but I am able to, assess whether or not this home is, changes need to be made for you to remain there safely.
Got you. And why do you think, like, aging in place, why do you feel like this is something important for people to know about, or even for you to have a profession such as, being that certified aging in place specialist?
So I think it's important because I think a lot of people believe that, Medicare or insurance covers nursing home, your long-term stay in a nursing home. And I find that out a lot, especially in my work as a case manager. People are surprised to know that when they aren't able to stay in their homes because they are not safe to return to, or they just don't work for them, that they can't just go and stay in a nursing home or ALF and, and insurance is going to pay for it. So I think it's important to know so that we can plan. So we're experiencing, and we're all getting older, but the generation, I'm a Gen Xer. So the baby boomers, there are more of them, and they are getting older, and we sort of need to figure this thing out. We need to figure out how we are going to assist them in getting older. You know what I mean? And being able to stay home. The other thing is that even if you are able to afford nursing home long term, most people prefer to live in their own homes and communities. So and for quality of life reasons, you know, that's their preference, and that's their choice. And so we need to make sure that, you know, we're able to kind of help them facilitate that, and whatever planning or preparation they're able to do, just kind of give them the tools necessary to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I was just talking to someone earlier about how it's rare that a person desires to move into a long-term care communities such as like a nursing home or assisted living. That's not something people walk around saying like, oh yeah, I can't wait, you know, but they end up there for you know, several reasons. But
Right.
yeah, trying to figure out how to stay in the home, I think is a lot of people's goals. At least is mine. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
yours. So you're right.
Yeah.
So let's get into the nitty gritty. What does an average visit to a client's house look like for you? Like when you are going in to assess that person's home, what are you looking for? What are some
Hmm.
things that you're talking to them about?
Okay, so right now, so I'm a Medicare provider, which means that most of the people that I see have Medicare. So I'm seeing them because there's been some concern of some decline in function, in which case it's a perfect opportunity to, you know, go in and assess the environment and to make it safe for them. So because I am an occupational therapist, I'm looking at the way that particular person functions in their environment, and a big part of it is preventing falls and making sure that they're safe. And this is a big initiative. I mean, my friend Harmony is on here. She's in the insurance industry. So just FYI, she's going to be giving some information. She has a lot.
Good.
Right. But and Medicare is changing quite a bit so that people can't age in their homes. And that's what she's saying. Because they also realize that this is the best thing for everyone. But when I'm going into the home and I'm actually, you know, doing an assessment. So, you know, that's a functional assessment. I'm checking, assessing the person's ability, you know, to move, to do the things that ADLs. A big part of that is going to the bathroom. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the majority of falls occur in the bathroom. And most bathrooms in our country are very small, the size of a closet. So we've had, you know, it's very common, and for the OTs that are on the call, it's very common for us to have a client who fell in the community and was sort of trapped behind their bathroom door for days. You
Mm.
know, that's something that happens, right? So making sure the bathroom is safe is one of the first priorities. But I really try to focus on what the client and the caregiver wants, because and there are reasons for that. You got to get buy-in from them. And if you're going, let's say you're in there and maybe you want to focus on one thing and that's not a priority for them, they're not going to be really open to the changes, and they won't follow through with them. So a big part of it is having a discussion based on the findings of, you know, how they're able to function, and, you know, creating some goals with them in mind and the caregivers in mind, and then moving from there. Now, there are some very small, inexpensive recommendations that can be made, and, you know, it could be a grab bar situation. In a grab bar, not a towel bar, and we say this a lot, and we're going to keep saying it because people are always pulling on towel bar.
And
We're
then
gonna
get
keep
injured
saying it,
that way.
right? And also, you'll find that some people don't think that they have a problem getting off the toilet because they're able to do this rocking motion, and they rock, and then not only do they rock, they're pushing up from the sink. So we'll come in and we'll be looking at something totally different and notice that they're having shoulder pain, and this is a big reason why they're having shoulder pain. Because of what they're using, you know, how they're using their arm to get up from the toilet. And, you know, we can just give a raised toilet seat for that. So I've seen a lot of people with shoulder injuries because of that. And then also, let's see, the rocking back and forth on the toilet. And you have a lot of toilets that come sort of loose on the bottom, and then there's some leakage. So now you have another problem, because you shouldn't be rocking back and forth. And if you do that enough, then, you know, you're going to sort of break the seal. So
Mm.
I could be in the home for something totally different, and then having them go to the bathroom and making that assessment and making those recommendations can really help prevent a fall. So that's what it's about. It's about looking at the whole person in the environment and seeing what's best suited for them, and also with what they're able to afford. Medicare is, and there are some programs coming where they are covering certain types of home modifications. I know HUD has a program. Habitat for Humanity has a program, and they are not in all states, but they are following, HUD is following the Capable program. So for any of you out there, the Capable program requires an occupational therapist, a nurse, and a handyman or contractor. And they are not in all states yet, but just keep an eye out on that, and probably consult with your local area agency on aging, and just to keep an eye out, because those resources are becoming available. Finding exactly, crashing down on the seat. Yeah.
Wow, I like what you said though when you said that you focus on the whole person, right? And then you even take in mind what their preferences are, but also giving suggestions and seeing areas that need more attention. So I think that is amazing. Now you and I talked a while back, a couple weeks ago, right? And you mentioned something that I wanted you to speak on about the preventive approach. And you've kind of already said a little bit about that, but you mentioned that you approach things with like preventive care in mind. Can you go in detail about that?
So and I'm excited about this, but it's taken a long time for this to come about. But typically when someone comes, or when we receive an OT referral, it's because there's been some sort of adverse event. Person has had a fall or some type of injury. They've been in the hospital even, right? But there are things that happened before then that we could have intervened to prevent that. So, when you ask a person, whether it's a PCP visit, if there was a simple screen and they ask them, hey, how are you feeling? Have you had any falls this month? If they've had one fall or a near fall, that's reason for a referral. And if you get us in there, then, it could be a simple fix. It could be, maybe making some, decluttering. Maybe they don't know about the throw rugs or the scatter rugs that we're always, talking about. Or maybe they really need a change in assistive device. Maybe it's time for them to move from a cane to a rolling walker. Getting us then in that place before something happens is going to save, injuries. Falls are costly. It's a number one injury related death in that age group. So we really want to get things before we go into the hospital, and we can do that. And because aging is a gradual process, and so sometimes you can get in early. So that's sort of the preventative model, and also making sure that people who have chronic illnesses or chronic diseases, that they are managing them well. Sometimes they're not able to take off their socks, right? And they're not checking their feet. And maybe they need some help with that. They may not let you know that. So there's a lot of education that has to go, that we have to do to kind of let our referral sources know that, hey, Medicare is now saying, if you can show that you're preventing these things from happening, because, this costs us money, then this justifies treatment. You don't have to wait until there's an injury. And a lot of people don't know
that. I'm glad you brought that up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like addressing things before they get worse, really, and staying on top of, like you said, we already have something going on, staying on top of that, and getting ahead of it to not let things progress further, or maybe slow, depending on the illness or whatever, slowing it down the best we can is important also.
Absolutely.
Going back though, when you had mentioned the falls in the bathroom, right, and how bathrooms are small spaces, how do you navigate through homes that have really tight spaces, small bedrooms, small kitchens, the floor is uneven, little things like that? How do you all usually approach situations like that?
Well, you focus on what you can focus on, right? Because, you have to do things within a person's financial capabilities. There's that. And within the constraints of maybe they don't own the home, maybe they're renting. And we encounter that a lot. There are people who are renters who may qualify for like a reasonable accommodation, which may mean you can put up a grab bar. It's not really modifying anything. But if they were to make any major changes, like, knocking out a wall or something like that, or changing the tub to a walk-in shower, they would have to return that apartment to its previous state if they were to leave. So they could do it, but then they got to pay to return it to its original state. So what we typically do are the things that they can, if the homeowner can afford it, we just focus on those things that we can, the biggest impact for them. And some structural changes you just can't make. So you find a different way of doing things. So you adapt the environment. So, and that can look different depending on the situation. But one thing that I can tell you about the bathroom, if they live alone or with the spouse, or if the bathroom is in the back, we just take that door down.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you have that door that opens in, especially ones that open in, it's like that's how people get, that really decreases the amount of room that you have to move around. And then sometimes they go to open the door and it's the handle, and then they fall backwards, and then now they're stuck. So sometimes it's a simple change, just, maybe putting a curtain up, or even changing that to like a pocket door. So there are some things, it just depends on the situation.
Got you. Okay. Okay. All right. So moving on now. For individuals, and I feel like there's a high number of them that fall in this middle class range, right? So not lower, where they might have low income and qualify for certain programs that are available. They're not on the wealthy end of things. They're right in the middle, right on the edge, but they don't qualify. Is there anything, are there any programs in place for them? Is there anything that can help this group or bracket of people age in place?
So Medicare is working on that. I know. Right now, I actually posted a live about this because there's this organization I forgot the name of it because I'm a part of all these alliances, but but no, there's a bill, HR 7676. It's really easy to remember. And the bill is about, providing some sort of tax incentive to modify your home so you can age in place. Because they're not, so it's a tax incentive based program. But what I'm hearing is that that Medicare is also looking at ways to, provide some sort of like a reimbursement or qualification for that. And that stuff is coming, it has to come. There's just too many people. I mean, something has to come. I mean, things have progressed even within the past 2 years. So we'll just keep watching and waiting. But I know that there are programs out there, and there are different agencies who do this type of stuff as well. And I think some people may not know that they may eventually qualify for Medicaid. As soon as you can, get in touch with the elder care attorney, and just to determine, what your options are. Because just because you're middle class doesn't mean that you won't be able to, qualify for Medicaid. So that's something to note as well.
Okay, that's good. All right. So let's dispel a myth. And I feel like you already dispelled it, but we'll revisit it. So you mentioned it earlier about long-term care. But many people believe that moving into long-term care, like a nursing home or an assisted living community, is the answer to everything. Like, you're having some issues, oh well, it's just time to move into a nursing home. Is that true or false?
The thing is, so I've never heard I've never known anyone that wanted to move into a nursing home. Now, I've worked in some really nice nursing homes. I've been in some really nice ALFs, and there are some people who don't have a lot of family, and they are very sociable, and they can afford it, and it's like the best thing for them. So not all nursing homes are created equal. And so that's important to note. But like, In Georgia, the average nursing home long-term, like to be there long-term, is $83,000 a year. All right. In some parts of the country is more than that. But typically, it's about 83 grand. That's per year, right? That's a semi-private room. So that's not even your own room. So I think that once people realize that that's how much you're paying, then they can sort of, they may revisit some things. I do know that the ALFs and the independent livings, those are, they can be nicer. They have a lot of activities, but you're looking at what, $5,000 a month? So if you can afford it, I mean, and if that's what you require, if you really like a community, it's great. It is great. But nursing homes have become a place where they are really for people who require a skilled level of care. So, they require a skilled level of care. And so, and that's what, that's where they will more than likely remain. There will be very few people who are walking around a nursing home. Typically, they don't like that. Right? Even if you're paying yourself. And if you are, you're kind of like the lone wolf because everyone else is pretty ill independent. So a lot of people are there long-term on vents. Some still have a memory unit.
Yeah, wow. I'm glad you mentioned the price because not a lot of people know that the cost that's involved with living in a nursing home or like an assisted living, and it's very, very costly. And so in a lot of ways, and I'm sure you would agree, it would be more cost effective to try to figure out how to adjust in your home or, get things situated in your home that'll create a safe place for you than moving into a long-term care community. I think that a lot of times though, some families who are caring for loved ones or sometimes the individual themselves who are experiencing challenges just instantly think a long-term care community because they might not be aware of other options and things out there. But I'm definitely glad you mentioned the cost because that's a big
and it's costly, and it can be even costly to age in your own home if you need skilled care and you can't afford, if you, especially as you get older and you need, maybe you need more and more help with, with your self-care and getting dressed. And that's a big part of, I do talk about caregivers a lot because I believe that if we are able to get in as soon as possible and make sure that our clients in the community remain as physically active and functional as long as possible, then that's going to decrease the burden on our family caregivers. So they won't require as much physical assistance because there's a correlation between the amount of physical assistance that a person requires and the level of stress and burden for the family caregiver. And so they're a huge demographic that we are concerned about because they are burning out. They are throwing out their bags. They are passing away prior to, before their loved ones. And they're not very well supported. And so I do know that Medicaid and Medicare, they are definitely funding initiatives to improve or increase caregiver training, just so that caregivers feel better equipped. So.
It.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what people are talking about in the chat. And y'all, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat as well. I'm scrolling up real far. Okay, let's see what we got. You need a job to live in those places. Right, you do.
And that's the other thing too. If you own a home, this is why if you own a home, and you may want, or, maybe you have a chronic illness or progressive illness and you own a home, I think you really need to, if you have not already, contact an elder care attorney. Because what happens is if you do have to remain in a nursing home, because we have to be able to discharge you to a safe place. And sometimes we're not able to legally discharge you home because it's not a safe place.
Right.
And if you have assets, because you work in a nursing home, so you understand. And if you have assets, then so this is why we start having these conversations, because I've experienced that there are people who they're not safe discharges to the community. We just can't be liable, and not only it's just not feasible.
Right.
You live. Yeah, it's not feasible, and so
Yeah. Yep. It's true. It happens every day. Want to go home, but it's not safe.
right, this is not safe.
ALF great, but requires higher level function. Yes.
Right, it requires a higher level of function, and they'll tell you that. Now, what I've seen in the past couple of years, well, even I'll say within the past year,
Mm-hmm.
we did have a resident who, a patient who wanted to go back to his ALF, but he was a totally different person. And because he had been there for so long and it was just a really small company, a really small ALF, they took him back, and they were able to work out a package with the family. And but that's rare. I mean,
Right.
because typically they're like, well, can they stand and go to the bathroom? Because if not, he
Because the
doesn't meet
thing
our
is,
level
it's
of care.
assisted living. So the goal
Yeah,
is kind of like the bare minimum, right?
yeah,
So it's a lot of things that you got to be able to do on your own, and they'll help you,
yeah.
but
You have to be able
full
to do a
on
lot.
care,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, exactly right. And then, and then the next level of care will be a skilled nursing facility. And if you don't have Medicaid, it's just kind of like you can't really apply for, they're going to try to, get you covered for Medicaid, because Medicare covers the first 20 days, 100%. And then after then is a copay. Then the copay now for the next between days 21 to 100 is somewhere close to $200 a day.
And it's rare that
Yeah.
Medicare will cover the full 100 days. Um,
Oh, so
you
you get
might
those
get
calls a lot, right?
I get those calls so often, and you might get a good 2 weeks out of Medicare. And Medicare will be like, all right, we're done. We're not going to pay
Yeah.
for you anymore. It's on you. And then if say you apply for Medicaid, because someone set it up further, it doesn't hurt to apply.
Right.
But say you apply for Medicaid and you don't qualify, it is on you to figure out like how you'll pay for it,
Yeah.
And I really, those are like my least favorite phone calls, because most of the families that call me already know that they don't qualify
Mm-hmm.
and don't know how they're going to pay for their loved one's care in the nursing home, because they know that that's where they need to be. Or
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I can't bring him or her back here
Right. Because
because,
some of them are, so the nursing homes are there for a reason.
yeah,
There are people who require that level of care. That's just the truth.
yeah, they needed 24 hours, and you might
Yeah.
not be home every day to
Or
watch
you have to
after.
work.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
there would be hours where they would be alone. There's no like, but it's like a headache to even talk about. Not for me. I feel bad, yes, but for that person, because they're really circling in their mind trying to figure out like what is the solution gonna be here.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I do, yeah, want to see um become available for more people, more funding available for people in those types of situations. Children, family members will chip in to make sure their loved ones are well taken care of. That's good when you have children or family members that'll chip in, yeah.
Well, yeah. I
When?
have had some family
When you
members
have,
tell me well, I guess you're going to put them on the curb then, because I'm not coming.
that's what,
And I mean, and it is hard. It is tough. You would think, but more time. I mean, yeah, we experience that a lot. Yeah,
I've,
it's
I've,
not.
I've, I have worked with people whose spouse will say, don't y'all bring him back to this house. Do
Yeah,
not bring him. I'm not opening the door. He can't come back
exactly.
here. I can't do it. So he can't
Yeah,
come back here. So yeah, it's really nice when family and loved ones will chip in.
yeah,
But I've heard more stories of that not happening
yeah,
than it actually happening. But again, that goes back to the importance of that preventive care.
yeah.
And of course, things happen that we do not have control over. But what we do have control over, we really want to make sure that we're staying on top of that, like you said.
And then having conversations with your children. I think that sometimes people they just assume that their children are going to pitch in. And when we have these conversations, they've never actually had the conversation with their kids. They thought they had more time. And so
Mm-hmm.
the sooner the better. I mean, we're all, because it's not about getting older. It's not only getting older. I mean, we can all succumb to injuries or acute illnesses or, so the sooner you're able to have that and have an idea, the better. And nothing's guaranteed because people change and they may not be able to pitch in,
Mm-hmm.
but at least there will be some sort of foresight, because we've had people run through their retirement taking care of their parents because they had not planned for that and they lived far away. And people just don't live as close to each other as they once did. So um, those are conversations. Or they can't bring them home because all of their bedrooms are on the second floor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another concept, is visitability, that home modifications or making just minor changes, like maybe putting up a rail at your front door, or maybe a ramp, like or a slope, may not be a bad idea, because it's not just about you. It would just increase the chances that if your parents or loved ones wanted to come visit, they would be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep. Let's see. Someone mentioned caregiver training, highly undertrained or undersupported. Yes.
Absolutely.
Um, let's see. We got any questions coming through?
And oftentimes, families do receive training prior to discharge,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going home and training, doing those things in the home environment looks totally different with everything else going on. There's
Mm-hmm.
that. And then actually also the their functional capabilities may also change. So that
Mm-hmm.
requires a different level of training. So there needs to be an ongoing relationship with your OT, with your PT, which is your SLP, because if you have a loved one with a chronic illness, then and as that illness progresses, their needs may change, and you may need to be able to handle that, and you need some education and training along the way. So it's not caregiver education and training is not a one-time ordeal.
Right.
It should be an ongoing relationship, and that's what we're trying to sort of facilitate or get people to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. So let everybody know where they can find you if they have
Okay.
questions, or if they're in the Georgia area and may need you to come out. Like, let them know all of your info, or what you want to share anyway.
Okay, so I am a mobile therapy practice. So I come to you, and I also do a hybrid model. So I'm also available via a HIPAA compliant platform, telehealth. But my website is www.theneighborhoodot.com. You can slide in my DMs here at the Neighborhood OT. I'm on Facebook at the Neighborhood OT. Questions, comments, anything. And even if you're not, I'm also licensed in New York and Florida. So, yeah, hit me up.
All right. So I will put all of that information in the description of this live. And is there anything else you want to touch on or share with everybody?
Yeah. Ask for an OT referral. I don't care where you are. It's not for me. But I mean, we pretty much are everywhere. I mean, if you are caring for a loved one and you don't know what to do, absolutely ask for an OT referral, because we're kind of like everywhere, and we'll point you in the right direction, and we're masters at pretty much like assessing function. So
Yeah.
also definitely get in contact with your local, I always miss this up, area
Area
agency
agency.
on and I always want to call it like AAA, but then that sends me somewhere else.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah,
Cause
they
I'll
have a lot
follow
of programs, yeah. And they'll probably have a directory of clinicians in your area too. So you don't always have to go back to a doctor's appointment. So you can check out those sources. If you know someone who is in an older home and they're older and they need maybe they need a ramp, also look qualify for a modification.
Uh-oh, it froze. My camera froze, so I don't
Oh,
know if it caught everything you said.
what was the last thing? Oh, Habitat for Humanity or HUD in your area, or if it's for you or someone you know and they need a modification, go ahead and refer them, reach out to those agencies those local ones in your area. They do ramps. What else? Bathroom remodels.
Yeah.
They put up grab bars. So especially if it's an accessibility issue, like stairs and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Oh,
that's about
thank
it.
you so much.
Thanks
We
for
got
having
some
me.
comments. Girl, the people they feel so helped today. It says
Oh,
I've
thank
learned
you.
I learned a wealth of information from you. Great discussion, ladies. Thanks so much for doing
Thank
this.
you. I'm glad we could
So
help.
glad to know you're out there taking such good care of folks in Georgia, Phaedra.
Oh yeah, those my peoples. Thank you.
Georgia, and then you're licensed in New York and Florida.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
I haven't gotten my peach yet. We're new to Georgia, but I'm working on my peach.
Okay. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate you.
Thanks
And
for
thank
having
you
me.
everyone for coming and joining in on this conversation. It's much needed. There's so much that I say we and everyone else that we don't know a lot when it comes to aging in place, or we don't really know where to start,
Right.
or just kind of what we should be thinking about. So the information you share was definitely helpful, and like I said, I'll be sure to put all of that in the description. And somebody said, what part of Georgia?
Atlanta. So Atlanta's a big, yeah.
It is.
Yeah. But
Somebody said
in
roses,
Atlanta.
roses.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, and hopefully we can do this again. I'm sure there's like so much more we can talk about.
There's a lot.
But it was good to scratch the surface a little bit, or scrape, scratch. One of those. It's good to kind of touch on it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
We can always talk about it more, but in the meantime, in between time, y'all be blessed and have a good one. Thank you, Phaedra.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Yo.